right, so Dean is using BOP. BOP, let's see. I am not familiar with that indicator, or at least I'm not familiar with the acronym. Let's see. There it is. All right, BOP. Balance of power. Okay, interesting. All right, yeah. So let's put this on my chart here. And yep, I should lighten up the color. Let's bar. All right, let's make this bar a little thicker so we can see it. And let's see, a 34 period, or smoothing. All right, let's put that on the chart there. And I'll take these other indicators off. All right, so it looks like we have an oscillator going on here. All right, so balance of power. And let's see, what are we trying to do with the balance of power? Okay, so Dean is just trying to compare. Actually, you know what? Let me finish getting BloodHound set up here. So let's minimize the chart here. Let's minimize this guy. And before I get going too far, let's just let's finish setting up BloodHound here. So I'm starting to get ahead of myself. Alright, so let's put the file name in. Alright, so there we go. We got today's file name in. And we've got a logic template. And let's name this here. So we'll just call this balance of power example. Alright. There. Call it good. Close that up. And so let's discuss what Dean's wanting to do here. So what Dean is doing is he's comparing one bar to the next. So if we're on this bar, he wants to compare it to the bar previous, to the previous bar, like so. And we just want to see, you know, is the current bar higher than the previous bar, or is the current bar lower than the previous bar? So if we keep going, like for example, you know, or is the current bar lower? So basically, we just want to know, is the balance of power sloping up, right, or is the balance of power sloping down, right? That's simply what we're doing. So when we're comparing one bar to the previous bar, that's what we're doing. We're just checking the slope of the indicator. Right? You know, and if we look at this indicator, we could actually change how it looks. Like I could just do that, and bingo, right? That seems a little standard, right? So if we're just checking the slope of the indicator, is it sloping up or is it sloping down? Right, another way of looking at this indicator. All right, so what Dean is using is a comparison solver to do this. So let's grab a comparison solver. There we go. Got that plugged in.
Once you're all done and you want to see the results, then you can just enable the processing again. Enable processing. And then just refresh your chart.
Alright, so getting this solver going here. Let's give this a name first. Alright, balance of power. Simply put, we're just kind of looking at the slope of it. So let's plug our indicator in. So let's go find the BOP. There it is. All right, let's change the smoothing here so it matches the chart. 34. All right, BOP only has one plot there, so that's already selected for us. Okay, now let's go into input B and change that indicator to the BOP as well. There we go. And again, change the smoothing. Plot's already selected. All right, so if you notice, we get nothing now, right? Nothing, and that's because we're looking at the current bar and comparing it to the current bar, right? So if like we're looking at the current bar and input B is also looking at the current bar. So what we need to do is take input B and change the displacement to 1. So that means we're looking at 1 bar back. And so now, right, so the green dot is what input A is looking at, which is the current bar. And then the red diamond, that is input B over here. And input B has a displacement of 1, so that means it's looking 1 bar back. So it's looking at our indicator data 1 bar back. So, right, if you accidentally leave displacement to 0, then what that's doing is both input A and input B are looking at the same bar, and of course they equal each other, right? So that's why you get no output. So just set that to 1, and there we go. So that is that. So if we look at this, interesting, we can see there's quite a few bars here where that indicator just kind of goes flat, right? So when there's no output, that means the indicator is completely flat and the data is not changing. And let's see, there's another way we can do this. So basically, you'll notice that we're just really what we're doing is just looking at the slope of this indicator. So, you know, a more simple way of doing this is you could just use the indicator slope. And just let's rename this. And all we need to do, let's connect that to the result node first. Okay, now let's go in here and replace that SMA with the BOP. There's our balance of power. Change the smoothing, and our plots are already selected. And there we go. So we got the same thing. So it's just the slope solver is a little easier to set up. All right, so there you go, Dean. Let's see. Pathralwin says he doesn't trade using Renko bars. So will the template be useful for you? I don't know. You know, as far as charting goes, a bar is a bar. It doesn't matter if it's Renko, tick, minute bars. You know, it's all data. That's all it is. A bar is a bar. So I could change this to a 5 range, right? And it's still gonna work. You know, I mean, you know, the open, high, low, close of every bar is still, you know, that's what this chart is an open, high, low, close bar. So it doesn't matter if it's a Renko, range, or a 1 minute bar, right? It's just all data. It's just all numbers still. So bar types don't matter to indicators, right? The BOP still calculates. BloodHound still calculates. You know, it doesn't matter what type of bar type you want to use. It's all there. So whether it's useful to you, you know, I guess that's obviously that's a personal decision to every trader to decide whether something's useful to them. But you know, all the indicators will calculate, so that's for sure. Let's see. So Vlad is saying that with calculate on bar close false leaves a false signal on the chart and requires an F5 to refresh. What can be done? Vlad, nothing can be done. That's just the different nature between COBC true and COBC false. So again, let's see. Let's pull up BloodHound. You know, this is just the nature of the. It's just the nature of how your indicators will behave differently and calculate differently. So yeah, so if you got this calculate on bar close, or I just call it COBC for short, you know, depending if it's running false or true, you know, those are two different operating modes within that NinjaTrader has. So that's just the nature of the different operating modes. All right, you would definitely with because of the uniqueness of BloodHound, you will get different results between COBC false and COBC true. There are a small handful of other indicators that also will behave differently with COBC false, COBC true, but it's only like really complex indicators doing really complex things. And so when your COBC is set to false, it'll calculate differently than if it's set to true. So you know that's just the nature of, you know, COBC true versus false. So there is nothing that you can do. You just have to accept it and you know understand the differences between the two. You know, there's always a trade-off. You know, everybody's looking for the perfect solution, but everything in life has a trade-off. So if you're using COBC true, you know, there's a trade-off. If you're using COBC false, there's a trade-off. And you just got to find, you know, which trade-offs you prefer best as a trader. Right? And that goes for all software in general. Right? Yeah, so it's kind of that's really that's the best answer I can give you there, Vlad. Yeah, and I guess just on another side note, guys. So if you're running BloodHound or some other complicated, you know, complex indicator, if you're running it with COBC false, right, you're going to get results. And then if you refresh your chart, you will most likely see that your results change because when you refresh your chart, you know, if you refresh your chart, what happens is all the bars on your chart get calculated as COBC true, right? COBC false, though, that calculation mode only happens in real time. You cannot run COBC false on historical bars, right? So you know, so the historical bars that are on your chart, NinjaTrader can only calculate those as COBC true, and then so let's I can't actually give you an example, but if I set BloodHound to COBC false and click OK, all the bars that you see on my chart, those were all calculated as COBC true, not false. NinjaTrader cannot calculate these bars that are already built. It cannot calculate them as COBC false. Only this live bar can NinjaTrader start calculating as COBC false. Only live bars are COBC false. So if you do anything to your chart that causes it to refresh, then basically all your BloodHound NinjaTrader is going to calculate BloodHound as COBC true for all the bars that are already on the chart, all the historical bars. All right, so yeah, of course, here is the #1 follow-up question to the COBC faults question, which is Stefan is asking, how would you backtest with COBC faults, right? Since all backtesting on a chart like this is done with COBC true, how can you backtest? Yeah, the only way to backtest with COBC faults is to run your market replay, right? I'm kind of guessing that's probably half of the reason why NinjaTrader has a market replay. That's the only way that you can backtest with COBC faults. Is just use market replay. And of course, you can't backtest the strategy analyzer. Does not backtest with COBC faults. It just can't do it, right? Backtesting with the strategy analyzer is COBC true only. So if you want to backtest with COBC faults, that has to be on a chart using market replay connection. Okay, yeah, I think this is somewhat similar. Okay, let me just kind of name this here. All right, so that's just a simple price inflection. All right, so yeah, Gord's got a solver that's generating signals, and he's getting long and short signals out at the same time. I think what I've built here is kind of an oversimplified version of what Gord has, but it'll do for my signals here. I'll just kind of put in here, this is just example signals there. All right, and then the other component is he's got another. Hey, he has it. Yeah, well, he has an inflection solver that's looking at something similar to the anaSuperTrend. Yeah, something really similar to the anaSuperTrend. And let's see here. Let's take a look at this. All right. Yeah, I think this will do. So he's got an indicator. It's kind of changing direction, similar to what the anaSuperTrend does. All right, so we can see that let's see. Yeah. Well, it's not exactly the same here, but I think it's going to work close enough, at least for the example here. So, simply put, Gord's got two different, types of signals here. So I'd say that this is more. This is indicative of his trade signals, right? So he's got all the kinds of these signals popping up, and he wants to filter it based on this inflection solver here that he's got here. And I should name this, shouldn't I? There we go, the anaSuperTrend inflection. So, for example, right, if he gets a up inflection, or if he gets a down inflection, then what he wants to do is, filter out. He wants to filter out the signals here, because if you notice, the signals are giving him a long and a short. What he wants to do is filter them out so he gets long only. Right, so in other words, he wants to strip out the short component. Right, he wants to strip out the short component, of his signals here when he gets a up inflection from this solver over here. Right, so he just got a inflection up, and so he only wants to see long signals after that occurs. He only wants to see long from this. Now, if we use an AND node to do this, let's plug that in there. Right, there we go. So we get, there's our trade signals. Now, if we just plug this in, basically we pretty much get nothing. We'll get a signal once in a while. Once in a great while. Let's see, there's a couple. But we're missing all the others. So if we disconnect this, right, we're missing all these other signals here. So, so the way we would do this is there's a couple of ways we can do this. One way is if we look at the inflection solver, you notice it has a look back period. So if we want to restrict the number of signals after this inflection, right, what we can do is use this look back period. So if I set this to 10, you notice that now the inflection output only lasts for 10 bars. Right, so that means we could get signals within this 10 bar area. Right, so we've got another 10 bar area. We can get signals within this area, but there would be no signals outside of that area. Right, so there'd be no signals in this area. So let's take a look at that here. So let's take a look at our signals again. All right, so there's our trade signals. And so we can kind of see like where I drew my X, that essentially, these signals would not show up because they're outside of our 10 bar area here. So let's connect this up and see what happens. So there we go. So we get a couple more signals, right? But we're still missing all these signals in here. And right, so with the inflection solver, you can set a limit to how many bars after the inflection that you can get signals from, or filtered signals. Right? So if let's say we double this to 20, right, to 20 bars. So now we're going to get more signals here. So now we've got signals going out for 20 bars. Let's take a look at this here. So now we can get signals all the way out to there. And signals out to there. And we still have a small area like this, right, with no signals. So let's take a look at our signals again. So we're looking at our signals, and there actually are no signals in this area right here, but let's see. Oh, here we go. We do have some signals out here. All right, so this rectangle shows our 20 bar area where we can get signals. take a look at the inflection solver again. All right, so we can get signals during this, where this inflection solver outputs, where this inflection solver is printing. We can get short signals here, but then over here, right, where there's no output, then we're not going to get any signals. So let's see here. Yeah, we can see that there are some signals here, but they're not going to get, they're going to get filtered out because our inflection solver only prints out to 20 bars. Right, our inflection solver only prints out to 20 bars. So if we take a look at that, there we go. So we get signals within this 20 bar period, but then these signals out here get filtered out. So the inflection solver kind of has one way of generating a filter, so you can get signals after the inflection solver, you know, for however many bars you want to set a limit to. But let's say you don't want to set any limit, right? Let's just say, let's say you don't want to set any limit. So what I'll do, let's take a look at the inflection signals again. So if we want to get signals from this long inflection all the way to the short inflection, and then from this short inflection all the way, you know, until we get a long inflection again. Say like we want to, you know, get signals the entire time. So in other words, we don't want any limits anymore. So we want to get rid of those limitations, and we just want to be able to get signals from one inflection signal to the next inflection signal. Well, what we can do is we can use a toggle node. Just plug that toggle node in there, connect that up, and now see if we take a look at the toggle output. There we go. It has continuous long and then continuous short, right? So the toggle node is always flip-flopping back and forth. So every time we get that inflection signal, the toggle node just stays on until it gets the opposite inflection signal, and then the toggle node flips over. All right, so let's take a look at our, so here's all of those, here's all of those inflection signals, and then if we take a look at the toggle node, right, the toggle node is flipping from short to long every time it gets an inflection. So as long as we have, right, some kind of a output, then our signals can get through. So let's connect this up and disconnect that. So here's all of our signals, and now if we take our toggle node and connect it into the AND node, so there we go. Now we're getting all of the trade signals coming through, and they're filtered. Right? So we're getting short signals only or long signals only, and they're all filtered based on the inflection, you know, of this anaSuperTrend, or whatever, you know, Gord is actually using some other kind of trend detection indicator, trend identification indicator. And just a mental note, really there's, this is kind of a long-about way to do something like this. Probably what Gord should be doing, well, actually, I don't know. Well, maybe actually looking at his indicator, this might be the best way. Yeah, this indicator is a little different than the anaSuperTrend. Yeah, the indicator prints right on price. So, yeah, normally I would say, with most indicators, you could probably use just a comparison solver to do what both the inflection and toggle node's doing under most circumstances. But let's see, Gord's got a unique indicator here, but where the inflection solver actually wouldn't work. Yeah, it looks like Gord's using a custom indicator. And yeah, in which case the comparison solver is not going to work for his particular case, and I guess that's why he resorted to using the inflection solver. Yeah, but normally you could use an inflection solver to do what both of these toggle node and inflection solvers doing. Yeah. All right. In any case, yeah. So this is just a simple example of a filtering technique. All right. So basically, we've got some example signals here, and we're getting to both long and short signals, and we just want to filter them out based on some other indicator. Some other indicator like the anaSuperTrend that's filtering out what direction you should be taking trades. And so you just take your trade direction filter, plug it into an AND node, and you get your result. So this time block indicator is a solution to get around the limitations of NinjaTrader's session templates, right? With the time solver, right? So as you know, the time solver uses session templates, and there's some limitations with that. So that's what this indicator here is to help do, is to kind of get around those limitations. So I actually showed this several months ago, but I'll just cover it again here. What you can do is, right, so time block, so as the name's trying to imply, that what you want to do is, you want to specify a block of time. So, for here, I've got, Eastern time. I got the hours. It defaults to the trading hours for the Eastern time. So if I want, I'll change this for my time zone. There we go. So there's the market hours for my time zone. And I can turn on the day of week or turn off the day of week. Right, so Sunday is off by default. And since this is an indicator, what you can do is you can color different time zones. So there we go. So before the start time color. So in other words, before 7:30, we're going to get the color yellow. And between the start and end times, in other words, between the start time, which is 7:30, and the end time, which is 2 p.m. So between those two times, it'll color silver, or of course you can change that to whatever you want. And then after the end time, so in other words, after 1400 hours, it's going to color it this purplish. Let's put that on the chart here. Let's take a look. All right, so there we go. There's yellow before 7:30, and then it went to gray afterwards. Right? And of course, we haven't gotten to 2 p.m. yet, so it's all right. So there's no purple, but let's go back to yesterday here. And here we go. So that purple and gray is awful close. It it works a lot better on a white chart than it does on a black chart. So let me go change. Let me go change a color here so that works a little better with black chart. How about if I do? Let's make this real obvious. There we go. Yeah, okay. That makes it a lot obvious. There we go. So there we go. Gray right during the market hours, and then after the end time it turns to blue, and then at midnight it's going to change to yellow. And then it stays yellow until we get into the start time, like so. So anyway, so if you want to run it on your chart, it's just gonna, all it's gonna do is just color your chart like that. So, right, you don't have to run it on the chart. Its real main function is within BloodHound. So let's, all right, yeah, so we'll just build some example solvers here. So to use the time block indicator, you want to use the threshold solver. Let's plug that in. All right. So, coloring the chart, that's just kind of a visual thing on the chart there for you, and to give you a visual feedback, for your time block settings, for the indicator settings. But the real power comes when you look at this indicator within BloodHound. So there's our time block indicator. And let me match what I've got on my chart here. So change the start time and end time hours. All right, so now here's the real power. So you notice all of these bool series here. So you can get all different kinds of information out of this. Right here, that's where the real power comes from. So, right, so let's take a look at the first one. Is it, are we basically, is start bar is saying, is this the start bar? The start bar would be the bar of our start time, right? So we have a start time. So is this the start time bar, basically? That's what that's saying. So if I click OK, and then I do need to put a signal in there. Actually, I'll turn the shorts off. Let's just do a long signal. It's easier to see. And right, so you notice here where it switches from yellow to gray, we have, that's our start bar. So remember, the gray colored area is the market, right, the market trading hours. And so the very first bar of our start time is marked. So what you could do, you could use this signal to, like, you could use it to, say, reset a toggle node, right? If you're using a toggle node in your system, you could use it to reset it, plug it into the reset of that toggle node. Let's see, you could, all of these function nodes here, like if you're using a signal blocker, you could use it to reset a signal blocker, right? So there's several function nodes in here that you can reset or basically turn off. Right, so reset is just another way of saying turn off. So you can turn off turn off whatever these function nodes are doing with this signal. Right, that's kind of one use for it. Let's see. Let's see. Right, so this solver here is basically it's identifying the bar, the bar at the start time. So yeah, wow, actually this bar is exactly it. It's 7:30 exactly. It's kind of surprising for a Renko bar. Well, actually we got a couple of bars here with the exact same start time. Interesting, but yeah, if we go to yesterday, we scroll back on our chart, go to yesterday. Once again, there we go. That's the bar of the start bar. And this bar actually closed at 7:30 and 43 seconds, but this is the very first bar after the start time. All right, let's take a look at some of the other bool series within this indicator. So what I'm going to do is
order pending.
I want to make a copy here. And let's delete that name. All right, so there's a copy. Let's put that copy in here. All right, so let's see. Let's take a look at this other one. So is end bar, right? So this one will identify the end time, right? So we have our end time set to 2 o'clock. All right, so this will identify the last bar, well actually the bar of our end time. So let's click OK. All right, we've got our solver that's plugged in. Let's name this here. There we go. And all right, there we go. If we look at yesterday, there we go. So it's the very first bar at our end time right there. There's something interesting to note that you'll see from time to time. Let's see, so we have one bar at 1400 exactly, and we have a second bar at 1400 exactly. All right, we got two bars with the exact same timestamp. And your indicators will typically identify the first bar with that timestamp. Yeah. And let's see, if we go back to today, well, yeah, of course today won't have a end time yet. Let's see. So here we go. This is yesterday. The other one was 2 days ago. And so let's see so this bar closed at 1434 seconds. So that's right, the first bar of the closing time right there. All right. So like for example, actually this one could be helpful. And you can use it to generate like a exit signal, but at the same time the time session solver can also do the same thing, right? That can generate an exit signal at a certain point as well. Same as this, same as the time block indicator. So there's really no, I don't see any benefit of using the time block indicator to or as a exit signal, you know, versus the time solver. I mean, the time solver will give you exit signals just as well as this indicator would. It just might be that the indicator is a little easier to set up, maybe. You know, it might be a little easier to set up. That might be the only real convenience for you. All right. Let's see. Let's take a look at some of these other settings here. All right, I'm just going to make a kind of a default one here, and I'm just going to make a bunch of copies of it that I can just grab later on. All right, so let me grab another solver here, and we'll take a look at the next setting here. All right, the next one down, see, before start. So we can see the all right, so we can see all the bars that occur before the start time. Let's take a look at our chart. Yeah, here we go. Shrink this down. Right, so remember the yellow is identified before the start time. So there we go. We've identified all those bars before the start time. Right, that does, basically that's kind of doing the same thing that that the time solver is doing. Same thing that the time solver is doing. A slight difference is you notice that it starts from basically midnight going forward, whereas the time solver would include this time as well, right? It would include, right, the blue area and the yellow area together, right? So that is a little subtle difference with using the time block solver. You know, so maybe this midnight point is kind of a critical time to identify in your system. Right, let's see. So let's name the solver here, and we're looking at the before start. All right. So let's name this here. All right. And let's grab another one. Let's see, what is the next one down? Let's see, between times. Between times, in other words, between the start time and the end time, right? So the only two times that we have is the start time and the end time. So for between times, right, that's going to be between the start and the end time. So in other words, that's going to be our gray area here, right? This between start and end time. So it's going to be our silver colored area. Switch that over, and let's name this here. And let's take a look. There we go. So now we've identified basically the gray area here. So there we go, during the gray area. All right, we can identify that time, and then as soon as it's, right, when it's after the end time, that signal stops. So remember, the blue area is after 2 p.m. From 2 p.m. to midnight, that's the blue area, and that's when our output's going to stop. There. All right, let's see what we have next. After end time, okay, and that's going to be our blue area there, right? So after 2 p.m. until midnight, so from 2 p.m. to midnight. Here we go. Yep, same thing there. There we go. So from the end time until midnight. Right, there we go. So after end time. Right, pretty simple concept there. After end time just means from our end time, which is 2 p.m. until midnight. All right, and we got one last output to take a look at here. One last one. And yeah, let's see, actually first, just to note, this default plot actually does nothing. It's actually some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a phantom plot that NinjaTrader adds for some reason. So, but this actually does nothing. So that's actually not a real plot there. All right, so let's get back to the last one here. All right, so the first bar of the day. First bar of the day. So that's actually a NinjaTrader function. NinjaTrader will identify the first bar of the day. In other words, it identifies the first bar of a new session. So as NinjaTrader would call it, the first bar of a new session, which would be the first bar of the day. And let's see, just a sec here. Okay, got that, and there we go. So we can see it's identifying midnight. So if you noticed the line that NinjaTrader draws on the chart, right? You can see the orange line, right? The orange line. There is a difference there. Let's see that orange line. Let's see, what does Ninja call that again? Data series. Session break line. That's right. That's the session break line. Right. So that's yeah, that's when the session ends. So that line there, let's see, that's it. Yeah, so that line is coming from our session template, right? That's the NinjaTrader session template. And so let's see, let's go to the control center. And there's our session manager. And yeah, so the end time is right midnight, but it's set to the Eastern time zone, right? Eastern time zone. So that's why there's a difference between the session break line and my indicator, right? And the, I should say, the time block indicator. So remember, I adjusted the time block indicator for my time zone. So the time block indicator is telling me midnight on my time zone, but NinjaTrader, the session template is set to the Eastern time zone, so it's showing me the session break line for the Eastern time zone. So therefore we've got a 2-hour difference between what we're seeing here. So now if I go in here and I can change, actually no, I can't. That's right. This is using my computer's time zone. Yep. So this first bar of the day, that actually is using your computer's time zone. So whatever time zone you have Windows set to, that's what the indicator will identify. And of course, that's also what's on the chart. So my chart, you can see my chart identifies my time zone's midnight time. So, all right, yeah, and this one feature here, right? Identifying the first bar of the day. That's probably one of the this will probably be the most common use for this indicator here. Is being able to identify midnight. So once again, I know some customers want to be able to identify midnight so that they can reset some of their function nodes at midnight. Well, all right, I don't see any questions, so just a reminder again, if you have any questions you'd like to see answered on this workshops, just email them in, please, and send some screenshots. Those are always helpful to explain your ideas with screenshots. Very helpful. Take it easy, relax, and I hope to see you guys next week. All right? Bye-bye, guys.